Welcome to Friday Thoughts, Living Together Faithfully. And I'm excited to come to you today to talk about that. What does it mean to live together faithfully? We're ecstatic about the promise and the possibility of gathering for indoor worship for the first time in over a year. And we can't say enough about how good that feels. So this coming Sunday, April the 11th, that is the plan. And we move forward with hope and expectation. The hope and expectation is that as we do that, we'd like to continue that on a week-to-week basis. We want to be able to keep that going. But we also know that of recent days, the case numbers in Chisago County are rising. And so they are at significant levels, and we will need to pay attention to that. So even as we do that, and I announce that today and share that with you today with joy and excitement, it's a word of caution that we do that with some tentativeness so that we gather together, but with the safest practices possible for everyone involved. And so it's a week-to-week decision based on how those case numbers and hospitalizations are going. And so there is a very real possibility that we may have to pause. And we will not pause worship, but we may have to pause the indoor, in-person worship. We'll make that decision every week on a Tuesday evening based on the numbers from the previous week, and we'll put that announcement out in the newsletter on Wednesdays and then go forward. But again, a reminder, worship will happen. It may be online only, or it may be online outdoors, weather permitting, and every opportunity when numbers are right, and it is possible, it will be indoor, in person at 9 a.m. That's the plan, and we hope you'll stay tuned, and I hope that you will bear with us in the midst of that uncertainty and the week-to-week decision-making that we have. So with all of that in mind, I wanted to share some thoughts with you today of how I'm viewing all of this. And I want to begin with this, a quote that came from Kitty O'Mara. It was last March of 2020, things were just starting. She watched the news in dread. The pandemic was most certainly coming to the United States. Nothing that she could do except for what she always did. When the world grew loud and overwhelming, she would write. So from her farmhouse in Wisconsin, she, as a retired teacher, penned a few words of reflection. And this is what it became. And the people stayed home. And they read books, and listened, and rested, and exercised, and made art, and played games, and learned new ways of being, and were still. And they listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows. And people began to think differently, and the people healed. And in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed, and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses, and made new choices, and dreamed new images, and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully, just as they had been healed. I think it's a great quote for the start of a pandemic. It's a great quote for us to reconsider as we think that the pandemic is drawing to a closer end. And as I share that with you, I hope we'll take time to think about that. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that this past year has been tough, that real struggle hurts, that real struggle from this pandemic has marked us in ways we don't even realize when it happens. And that this struggle, well, it brings us to crossover points in life, after which we become new people, sometimes worse, but often better, and always different. Sort of that in the crucible of struggle, we find out about mercy, and we find out more about the forgiving grace of God. Hence the tomb behind me. You know, think about it. We can't get to Easter without first going through Good Friday. Good Friday is the struggle. And that struggle, Jesus' struggle on the cross, that struggle is what shapes us, reforming us again and again and again. Kind of like the potter's kiln, the heat that creates the color and the quality of the glaze that we call our years of life. So the heat of struggle shrinks us down to size, and so it makes us wonderful and beautiful. That's our living reality. So I guess what I'm asking today, I'm asking you to stay in that a little longer. Don't rush too quickly to the old way. Hang in there with patience. Struggle is never done complete without cost, and that real struggle marks us for life. It cannot be simply smoothed over. It can never be undone. We bear its imprint forever in the face of our souls. But that's the reality of our lives. I like to think sometimes scars are signs of healing and new beginning. So we bear the mark of the cross, and it is forever. The pandemic struggle marks us for life, something we've never been through before. But as followers of Jesus, we are also marked with the cross of Christ. It's forever. I shared those wonderful words just last week with a little infant named Ren. And it was such a powerful moment to be able to put the sign of the cross on her forehead, saying, "You've been sealed now with the Holy Spirit, marked with the cross of Christ, and it is forever." That's our sign and our symbol, that the cross of Christ leads us to the tomb, the promise of resurrection, the promise of new beginnings. And that's what this is all about as we start again. So again, I look forward to seeing you as part of worship. We have 70 people registered for in-person indoor worship as of this morning here at Trinity for this weekend. And we are going forward with that with hope and promise and possibility. But we have set some guidelines for us from the Restart team. Way back when our case numbers, schools shut down last fall, case number rate was in the teens, 20s, jumped up into the 40s and 50s. And we ended up shutting down our schools. Earlier this spring, we sort of set a trend line saying, we were at 63 and we were going down. We got into the 50s, even to the high 40s, so we said, wow, we're doing well. But if we have case numbers in the 80s for 2 consecutive weeks, we need to look at the possibility of pausing to see how things are going. Well, last week the case count was 87, and as of yesterday we were at 79 for this week, and we're not done yet. So we're struggling with what that decision means. We will take it very seriously, very prayerfully. We will be communicating about that. And we hope to be able to gather again, in person, indoor, for next week. But that will have to be seen as we come further into next week. So as for now, we're on for this Sunday, and we're excited and we're hopeful. But bear with us. Be patient. Pay attention. Practice safe distance. Practice wearing your mask, especially when you're gathered with groups. Do whatever you can so we can get through this together. I hope that you're getting your shots, getting vaccinated, everything we can do to make this possible so that everyone can get through it safely. And by the grace of God and the power of Christ's love and the resurrection promise, we'll get through this all together. And so I wanted to share that with you today. Our prayers are with all of you, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.